Growing up in the 2000s and 2010s was a fun time, let me tell you. I was that perfect age to love the Toys for Life craze that, just hit like a freight train. Gotta tell you, I loved Skylanders, LEGO Dimensions, and for today, Disney Infinity. Now, I love Disney Infinity a lot, and same goes for the other two, but each of them were trying to do different things with the same gimmick. I think they managed to pull it off pretty dang well. Skylanders is still a good series for Imaginators, and LEGO Dimensions is likely why Sonic has blown up in terms of LEGO as of late, along with us getting some new Portal 2 material. But today we're here to talk about Disney Infinity. You see, the basis for Disney Infinity actually came from Toy Story 3 the game. From there, the game began to evolve and take shape, taking an angular style to make sure everybody could fit in, making everything non-canon so all the toys and stories that they could want to tell could be told. And yet they'd still keep the charm of the originals, and I think they pulled it off pretty dang well. I love the art style of this game, and Disney made so much of this game recently, so the art style still seems to have done pretty damn good. That said, what do you get in Starter Pack? You get the game, the Disney Infinity Power Base, a Power Disc, the Trio Playset Pack, and 3 figures, Mr. Incredible, Sully, and Captain Jack Sparrow. Now this is a great starter pack as you get so much for your money. You get 3 story modes, and something that usually helps you out in the toy box to make sure that doesn't get left behind. However, there is an issue here. You see, you can only use characters in a playset they originate from. So you can only use Mr. Incredible in the Incredibles playset, and you can only use Sully in the Monsters U playset. And if you say got Wreck-It Ralph or something, fuck you can't use them in any playset. So while multiplayer is possible out of the box, you need to get other figures to play the multiplayer of the playsets. Well, it's still a good bang for your buck. Now I'm going to talk about each playset individually and the toy box, but let's just begin with the intro.
Every great idea begins with a spark of imagination. Over time, with care and a sense of adventure, it begins to grow. Until it's so bright that it can't be contained. And imagination becomes reality. Imagination could take you anywhere, but you have trouble.
This intro may be one of the best in gaming history. It isn't action-packed and it doesn't contain amazing platforming or anything. But what it does contain is pure, childlike wonder, and it reinforces the themes of this game. Imagination will set you free. I love that we play as a literal spark of imagination, helping out characters we get to play through. It's like when you're a kid and would bring in a new toy to help come out in the story you were making up. It's nostalgic, but in a way where I think even people who haven't played the game can feel something from it, and feel some good nostalgia from it. And then there's the constant switching going from a spark to helping Mickey, to seeing some of the Toy Box exclusive characters before finding Woody and chasing him through some mines before coming across Sully. And you got to see the university in the background as you switch to Captain Jack Sparrow, and it's so freaking good! Climb a pirate ship and shoot yourself at it, landing so hard to find yourself as Mr. Incredible, before a race and a battle sends you to helping Mickey climb a castle. And this is when we watch the toy box come into its own, flying onto the power base, changing into the character placed upon it. This is an amazing intro. It keeps up the high energy. It will show you what your imagination can do. Every time I replay it, it hypes me up to get back into playing things. Sometimes I'll play this intro on its own just because I love it. Not only is it nostalgic for me, it's just nostalgic in general because it does really fill you with that childlike wonder that not a lot of stuff can capture nowadays. But how well does it continue into the Incredibles playset? The stories of the Incredible playset is pretty simple. After the Incredibles manage to capture 3 villains, Syndrome swoops in and frees them, throwing the Incredibles away and beginning with his attack with an army of Omnidroids. Now, I'm starting with this playset because it's the worst of the 6 in this game. Well, it's the worst of 5 of them. There is one that's worse, but we can get to it when we get to it. And I want to get it out of the way. The characters of this playset are Mr. Incredible, Mrs. Incredible, Dash, Syndrome, and the strongest character. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say the strongest character? Because that isn't wrong. You see, Disney Infinity, especially 1.0, is not a good fighting game because you only have 2 attack buttons. One is a simple 3-hit combo, and one can be a special attack, which is a lot of the time more of something that's for versatility, like turning invisible, shooting at Mr. Incredible's elastic hand, or Dash's running. You see, Dash's running is really great because you can ram into enemies, but it's also the fastest mode of transportation you'll have for most of the game until you unlock the Incredicopter. Meaning, if you're going to play this playset, get Dash. And remember when I said that Violet was the strongest character in the game? I wasn't joking. She's right up there with Sorcerer Apprentice Mickey as being the strongest character in the game, and it's... Woo! I am so glad there is a character like this, because Violet does make a lot of these battles manageable. I'm not saying it makes them good, I'm saying it makes them manageable. The missions here are also usually combat-based, but that doesn't do the best when you're limited the combat to maybe 1 or 2 buttons. Like, you do have some unlockable items that are for movement, you know, the glide pack and the hover pack. Now, the glide pack is fine, and the hover pack lets you get a quintuple jump, so it's good by default. Now, something I will give this playset is that enemy variety is decent. Though mostly Omnidroids with a couple of townspeople being mutated by Battle of Modern Ruthless, it's, you know, it's good enough. It does provide some strategy and gives you a reason to try and vary up your attack patterns. Of course, being that you have 1, maybe 2 attack buttons, there's only so much you can do for variety, and when the missions are mostly just go, hey, go punch that thing, you kind of run out of stuff to do fast. If you're planning to get this playset, get Violet and Dash. I swear to God, these kids are the most powerful thing in this fucking multiverse in this game. Just don't go in with Mr. Incredible as your only character. He shows the flaws of the playset the most. He is the least interesting of the characters here, and was probably only in the starter pack because of his iconicness. Imagine if they put Violet in the starter pack along with Captain Jack Sparrow and Sully. Holy shit, that would have been incredible, because then you'd actually have 3 characters who were great in their playsets. And as for the city of Metroville, I think it's well designed. You know, it feels like a good city, but it doesn't get so big or so open. It feels like you're getting lost every time you try and go somewhere. It's good size. And some of the missions, like with Baron Von Ruthless, they do add multiple steps to the process, like having to throw his bombs in the water and everything. The final battle is weird, but I get what they were going for. Yeah, this playset is pretty damning in what it lets you do. It's pretty limited. So let's move on to Monsters U. Monsters U is a pretty damn fun playset, mostly because it's not a combat nightmare. There's also the fact that it doesn't take itself too seriously. The story here is a prank war between Feartech and Monsters U. Whoever does the most and the biggest pranks win. With all culminating with us going to Feartech and stealing the school mascot, Archie the Fear Pig, initially failing before Squishy pulls out the most bro move ever and boom, Monsters U wins. It's a fun story, I can get into it, being a uni student myself. Over here in the UK, we handle uni pretty differently to how it seems they do in the US. Now, we see a trend here of the shoulder charge, but given this isn't a combat simulator, that's fine, and the packs and tools we unlock are pretty good. The TP launcher, a paintball gun, a fireworks backpack, they're all great. The aesthetics here really fit into the monster's world. Stuff like your toy store deliveries coming from a giant monster puking it out fit in perfectly. And the architecture of Monsters U looks like they ripped right out of the movie. The characters are perfectly in character, and I love the us versus them story going on. Heck, there are multiple areas you unlock that are much more compact and condensed than Metroville. There's the main campus, the Clock Tower, Feartech, and Frat Row. Heck, Frat Row doesn't even have anything to do with the story, but unlike the rest of the places where I just ran through the main story and maybe did a few side objects, I decided to do Frat Row, just because I have that much fun with it. Back then, this was my favorite playset. I mean, I only had the original 3 and the Toy Story one. Of course, now I have them all, which is what I've been waiting for to start reviewing the Disney Infinity games. Overall, the playset is pretty small, but I love it. It's still probably up there for me. In fact, of 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0, there's nothing that ever really matches the theming or aesthetics of the raw fun that MU provides. And just speaking from like my own experience here, yeah, this was the one I spent the most time in. It's the one I replayed the most. Just because it's so small. Not every playset needs to be some big bombastic action set piece that keeps you by the seat of your pants and never lets go. I think some of them really do get a boost from just being small and fun. You know, there are minor issues I talk about, like the bike being a little wonky, or the scaring mechanics being overly simple, but I kinda just don't care. Honestly, this is probably my favorite of the playsets when I was a kid, and it's still pretty damn up there for me. So what about the final playset and start pack? The Pirates of the Caribbean as a franchise I'm not that familiar with. Come on, I talk about Sonic and Ben 10 here, do these sound like the kind of movies I'd watch? That being said, this is the best playset in the entire game. The story is that Captain Jack and Davy Jones are going after the same treasure, the ability to summon the Kraken. And while Davy Jones managed to get the map, Jack has more luck with getting the pieces to stop the Kraken. We go from small villages to breaking into the British Empire base, to rummaging around a sunken ship risen to the sky by Teal Dharma. There's so much variety and so much you can do. After getting out of the tutorial, you're set free on the open seas, and while I have my gripes with the controls of the ship, it gets the imagination going on what can be experienced. It's great, there's so much to do, so much to explore, and while I did just go through the main story for this, it's one that I would love to come back on 100%. One of the few playsets I actually think I want to 100% in this series. Who knows? The various different locations you can set up are almost it's basically an open world, and some of them you're able to stack in any order. One of them giving you trouble, go get another piece, then come back. The platforming here is also really good, and the combat isn't terrible, next to the guns being way more powerful than the melee combat, but leaving you more vulnerable, as the gun has a cooldown. It's basic stuff I'm aware, but it's more interesting since it's the main focus of the playset. You know, it also helps that it is just fun. Now, the ship combat I do have a problem with, as the visibility can be horrendous at times, and there are times where I hit where I don't feel like it's my fault, but you'll spend maybe 20% of your time on the ship combat as it doesn't take up that much at the time. With all that being said, I still think this is the best playset in the game. It understood the mission and did it so flawlessly. We're still trying to pick it up even 3 games later. I love the exploration, I love the little bits of combat they throw in because it isn't the main fucking focus. I love the characterization going on here. I might not be familiar with pirates, but I gotta admit as a kid, this did make me want to watch them. Even if I didn't end up doing it. I should still go back and watch them at some point. So, that's the 3 start pack places out of the way. What comes next? Yeah, I didn't spend much time here. I don't like this playset mostly because of the driving controls. In Disney Infinity, the driving controls just suck ass for precision. And guess what you do have to do here? This is genuinely full F tier. It's terrible. Let's just move on. Now, how do they differentiate the game from Toy Story 3 the game, given that both are in the same engine, share the same movesets, and have the same playable characters? Set it in space. Yeah, this is actually interesting because it's taking the characters from the movie and making them all space rangers going around an alien world and helping all the aliens and help save the small city. So this is where all your imagination for the Incredibles playset went. Neat. This is a great playset, unless you're looking to beat it. You see, to get to the final boss, you have to beat the combat simulator. The way the story works is that you go to the combat simulator, beat a few simulations, go back to the oval, finish some missions, then back into the training simulator, and so on. Which would be fine if the training simulator wasn't the weak link here. You see, you only have the shoulder barge here and nothing else. It's about blasting, and the bots ain't great to fight against. When you're in the overworld and messing around with side-chaining glue, flying around, saving people, but in here it's shooty McBang-Bang and it's boring and bland. It looks like they made these simulations in the toy box, and the overworld is genuinely fun and should have been the main focus on how you get the ending. Because it's just great! And for the finale, it takes place in the overworld with some of the stuff you mess around with, like, you know, you need to use the jetpack to get to some places, you use the size-changing goo to turn Zurg into a tiny little boy. It's great stuff, but it's so dumb because it's locked behind the combat simulator where you don't play around with any of this. In the combat simulator, you just shoot your blaster at people. When it comes to things like the final boss, you don't even use the blaster. And it's a shame because this place can be breathtaking at times and look fantastic. And it's got one of the best gameplay loops, not the best, but it's got one of the best gameplay loops in terms of Disney Infinity 1.0. Like, if the combat simulations were more about testing out your different weapons, like, say, using the jetpack, the hover pack, the size-changing guns, then I think we'd be looking at the best playset here. But because it's just blasting at Zergbots over and over and over again, isn't good. And unlike with the Omnidroids where there's a lot of variety, it's just Zergbots with different coats of paint. This is... like, this playset is great when you're not doing the main story. Is that what you want? It's weird I spent this much time on the playset and my ultimate takeaway is don't play the story, what the fuck? Alright, this is the last playset. The Lone Ranger is a cozy little playset based on the box office bomb of a movie of the same name. Set in the small town of Colby and the surrounding west, the Lone Ranger and his friend Tonton must ride around, stopping Butch Cavendish from doing whatever he is doing. Probably stealing and killing. Now this playset is a 4-day night cycle, and a train that's vital to many missions. It's just a fun little playset that makes me feel like I'm a ranger in the west trying to keep people safe. It's got things like chasing down trains, having big shootouts and everything. About the train. See, the mission structure is different here from most of the other playsets because it's about patience. What I mean by that is you start a mission, get the train going, and by the time that mission is finished, you move on to having finished more like two more in the time it takes for the train to get around. This playset revolves around the train, and there are times where I'm just kind of fucking around and waiting to find out. Otherwise, it's the second best playset in the game other than Pirates, and it seems to be the one most well put together. Plus, its combat is broken up by a lot of other things, and it can excuse the soldier barge issue here. Unlike the Incredibles, it isn't 99% of the playset. Overall, it's a small, cozy, just small little playset, but you really get to feel like a ranger in the West, going around, saving people, stopping bank robberies, helping to rebuild cities, stopping evildoers from doing evil, and just helping people around towns. Got a few references to the movie in here, I think. And overall, yeah, it's great. It ends in a fucking turret section. Fuck off, both places. You're out of 100. Literally no. Infinity out of 100. Turret sections suck. But being serious there, this is a great playset, and I would recommend it to anybody who hasn't played it yet. This seems to be the playset that the least amount of people have played, probably because the movie was a box office disaster and a lot of people don't seem to like the movie. Ah well, that's all 6 playsets out of the way, and so the ranking is Pirates, Lone Ranger, Monsters U, Toy Story in Space, Incredibles, and then Cars. But now, we get to talk about something else, something far bigger. Oh boy, now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of Disney Infinity, the Toy Box. Once being a side mode of Toy Story 3 the game, here is the main focus, with many of the characters being thrown out who only work in the Toy Box. There's so much here to do after coming back from the intro sequence. There's an introductory section where you can run around and test things out, like cars in combat. You know, all the chubs the characters have. And you're given the tools to change it how you like. This is a pretty good starting area. Something else I'd recommend doing is the Mastery Adventures. While nothing major, they can help in things like learning how to be creative, showing off the power of platforming, when the driving controls suck. And don't forget, every character here has their own Toy Box adventure. This is a long time of effort for just one game. I can see why it blew up the way it did. There's so much care and effort put into the Toy Box. It really is just a whole ass game engine. Sure, it's more limiting than something like, say, Unity, but, you know, you get a lot of creativity out of limitations sometimes. However, there is, something bad. Yeah, the spins are atrocious. It shows a lack of care in the game that you usually don't see in the game, or that isn't usually made that obvious. To get spins, you have to level up your figures. So what happens if you've only got the introductory characters from the start pack? Fuck you, that's what happens. They do fix this in the future games, but it's still bad, because you have to have more and more characters, and I get the intention here. Because you can only have up to like 60 spins and there's way more items than that, you're gonna have to go out, get more characters, come back, and I get it, Toys to Life and all that, but I don't know, this is something that other ones like Skylanders didn't even deal with. It's just odd. There's also the Hall of Heroes, where every figure you add to your collection, the more built up it gets. I used all my 1.0 figures here and look at how it went. I don't have them all, so it doesn't get built up all the way, but it's still nice and give me a way better sense of completion, unlike in something like, say, Skylanders, where your completion is locked to a menu, and you don't really see it in much in the overworld. Finally, I'm going to show a quick build while I talk about the building in this game. It's not the most elegant since you use the D-pad to control the rotation and height while using the shoulder button to cycle through your tools. I must admit, there is a lot to work with. I can I can see why the toy box continued to be the best thing in these games. It always got the main focus, and here is no different. While the options are still pretty limited, that has to be expected for the first outing. But with the stuff you can get, the toy box is amazing. However, due to the servers being long dead, you can't play other people's toy boxes anymore. And I spent hours playing these as a kid. Oh, I loved some of these toy boxes. This one water park level I really loved, but they're all gone. And I get it, keeping up the servers was gonna be a big task, and the studio shut down. Those kind of nowhere to put the servers or anything. Looks like we still got some more time. While we let this play out, I should explain power discs. You'll likely notice by now I always have this power disc on. That's a circular power disc. It gives your character a boost. And bonuses and such. The hexagonal power disc changes how the environment looks. Take a look at the frozen landscape here. While some power discs came in 2-packs with characters like Anna or Elsa or Ralph and Penelope, they usually just came in blind bags, so you were inevitably going to get doubles. Another sign of just not caring, but hey, they fixed it, eventually. Anyways, what do you think of my little town? It's small and took like half an hour to build, but I still had fun. Once we get to 3.0, you'll see the true power of the toy box. In fact, if you've been watching this toy box for a while now, you probably already know the true power of the toy box. So, in conclusion, this is a pretty great game. I enjoyed my time with it. While some of the playsets were amazing, some were just okay, and some were incredibles, the toy box is actually amazing. And the highlights. But a lot of this game feels restricted by Toys to Life, unlike with Skylanders where it felt like the Toys to Life added to the game. Feels like here it takes away from it, which is like why the PC version just got rid of the power base and figures. Doesn't help the packages had RFID blockers and such in them. Yay, yes I'm salty. And the playsets feel pretty restricted but fine. But that toy box though, oh I love the toy box. Look, in conclusion, game's good. Needs some improvement, needs some polish, and some of the Toys to Life stuff cutting out like randomized power discs or having to lock new pieces through random chance. Then you'd have yourself an amazing game. So let's find out 2.0 did absolutely nothing to change any of that. Until next time, take care. Bye!